Inspiring Entrepreneurs is brought to you by Citi Commercial Bank in conjunction with International Women's Day. You're listening to Money FM 89.3. According to the International Monetary Fund, adding more women to the labour force should bring larger economic gains than an equal increase in male workers. But to do so, support of women in the working world from male colleagues is key. In this special podcast series brought to you by Citi Commercial Bank in celebration of International Women's Day, we will speak to inspiring professionals who embody the spirit of entrepreneurship and champion the power of women in the working world, their thoughts, their lessons, what inspires and drives them. Today we speak with Richard Koh, Group CEO and founder of M-DAQ Global, to find out more about his journey as an entrepreneur and his thoughts on the importance of culture and women in the workplace. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. Now, Richard, I've got to ask you, M-DAQ is quite a unique company. What was the catalytic moment that led you to launch M-DAQ?
About 20 plus years back, when I was having my first stint in a U.S. investment bank, very quickly I realized that a large part of my year-end incentive compensation was in the form of stocks, restricted stock units, and it is a U.S. dollar stock. And I'm a Singapore guy. And I was always wondering, what is my walk-away price if I were to walk and then I lose my unvested shares in Singapore dollar terms. So that was that very first single basic idea of how I can see a foreign stock, foreign security in my home currency, my portfolio currency. What is it worth on a real-time basis? And that is really what that first product came about.
And I understand your mission is to create a world without currency borders. How far and how successful do you feel you've been on that mission?
I think we're still early days. Despite having been in business longer than most startups, we've been around for 13 years. And we're probably also one of the few that has already crossed the break-even point, reached profitability back in 2018. But our solutions today actually helps some of our key clients, especially those in the e-commerce field, sell locally in as many as 45 countries in the world. And if you look at these 45 countries and the population that they represent, when I last checked, something like 4 billion out of our total population of close to 7-8 billion in the world. So I would say it has probably reached something like half of the world's population indirectly through our solution.
Richard, can you give me an example then? I mean, that's a phenomenal number of how M-DAQ might apply to me on a daily basis when I go shopping, for example, or online shopping even.
So if today you were to buy something online and on a foreign website, whether it's from China, from US or elsewhere, the currency quota is different from your local, say, Citibank Sing Dollar credit card. If you are buying something, say, 100 US and you think it's roughly 132 Sing dollars, but you know that they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. I mean, a typical credit card spread that applies to all types of credit cards, about 4%. Then you probably end up paying like maybe 136, 138. But you're not really sure. You have bought the item and you only know the exact price 2 days later. We changed the whole equation, the whole experience by reducing the risk. We say that why not you can make this website looks local to you at the point of browsing. And then you can just look at it and say, oh, actually it's 132 Sing dollar. You decide to buy or not, and you'll be 132 Sing. And even if you end up doing a refund within 3 months, we'll give you back 132 Sing. So this price commitment, the guarantee, the whole seamless actually makes our clients' business in 45 countries go local, hyper local, and also it increases their sales by reducing something called shopping cart abandonment.
What was that like? Because lots of us have ideas of different situations that may impact us on a daily basis, but it takes that something extra to step up and say, hey, actually, I want to do something about this. This is an issue that is really bugging me. Now I'm going to create a solution. It's taking that next step that really sets apart the entrepreneurs and the founders from everybody else. What was it like in the early days, starting up the company and getting things going?
Well, I like to repeat this quote from someone else, and I kind of believe what it says and what it embodies, which is entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can live, hopefully, the rest of your life like most people can't. Right? So there is going to be going through valley of death and challenges, baptism of fire, but that's really all part of the deal, part of the journey.
It wasn't always easy in the early days, and I understand that your staff stayed with you when things got really tough. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, 2 years after our founding, being very immature and inexperienced in business, we had a term sheet at the time from a very large US bank and a very large Asia Pacific stock exchange. They wanted to both invest together, and they told us that they can close this deal in like 3 or 4 months. But the term sheet has this very special clause that it says no shop. And being a typical startup, your cash flow, your runway tends to be limited. You'd be lucky to have 6 months, 1 year of runway at any given point. We thought they can close it in 3-4 months, and we had a runway of say 6 months, and we thought it'd be just nice. But that whole deal, negotiation, everything ended up dragging it to like 6, 7, 8 months, and we were basically running on fumes. And at some point, we ran out of money. The leadership started to take hits. We say, let's cut our own pay by half, by 3/4, and then do nothing. But we never ever wanted to touch the livelihood, the paycheck of our people. So when that thing happened, we never owe any money. Unlike most startups, by the time you found out, you read about it, you have already been in the rate in terms of your salary for 2-3 months. We actually tell them ahead of time that next month will be your last paycheck. We're sorry it come to this, but we are not going to give up. As captain of the boat, we'll go down with the ship. And it was a very emotional thing because one after another, as I give that small sort of all hands meeting, or i.e. called a town hall, one after another, half the company came and stand beside me to say, we will stick with you. I can't do much, but at least I can keep the lights on. I'll help you wind down, close the book, etc., etc. So eventually, out of the 20 plus people, about a dozen stayed with me, and we went through about 8-9 months of no pay.
That must have been such an emotional journey then, and that really boils down to the relationship that you have with your staff. Since we are talking on the back of International Women's Day, perhaps you can talk to me about the culture and diversity that you have at M-DAQ. I understand that you have quite a large portion of women in the workplace in comparison to industry peers, given the sector is traditionally quite male-dominated.
In terms of the ratio at the leadership level, we have about 1/3 who are female.
Okay.
And to me, female colleagues actually lend a very different perspective to the way we see things, the way we see risk, challenges, solution. We embrace diversity and inclusivity a lot. So very often, if we all come from the same background, same culture, same gender, the answers tends to be very similar. So I think this is something that we have helped in terms of our innovation.
Perhaps you can give me some examples. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child, and you have created a village. How are you supporting women in your workplace?
One of the examples was a couple of years ago, one of our key leader, her name was Karen, and then she just gave birth to her first child. In fact, she had a second child while she was also here, and we supported her through the whole maternity and everything. But in her first child, she just left her banking job and she just joined us, and she was still basically nursing her child. Okay. She was asking for, is there a place that we can? Yeah. And we actually converted one of the meeting rooms, took away the table, the chairs, we put in a little massage chair, put in some mood lighting, we put in a nice aromatic diffuser, and then we have curtains and everything. Just make the whole place feel very nice and homely.
I see. And that's great in terms of supporting women when it comes to developing and growing their family. But what about supporting women when it comes to rising up the ranks within the organization? How do you ensure equal opportunities for your female coworkers?
To us, we don't see it as a female versus male opportunity, because I think some organizations try to maybe use terms like, let's focus on women in tech, or the more you put the gender in front, you are in a way already saying that you can only be good if you play in this field, in this box. To us, everybody has the same equal opportunity. And that to me is actually maybe a bit unusual, but maybe even controversial, but it's actually a good first step. Because the moment you just say, okay, look, this top prize, this opportunity is only given to women and men cannot compete, then even if you win it, you'll feel that you are just winning amongst a certain subset.
We're speaking with Richard Koh, Group CEO and founder of M-DAQ Global, to discuss the spirit of entrepreneurship and supporting women in the working world as part of an Inspiring Entrepreneurs series brought to you by Citi Commercial Bank in celebration of International Women's Day. Now, Richard, earlier on we were talking about the percentage of women that you have in your workforce. You mentioned that it's about 1/3 female, but that you would like that number to grow. You also shared that you have quite a significant number of nationalities, diverse nationalities within your organization, about 20 nationalities, if I'm correct. We spoke about whether or not you have initiatives to support women when it comes to progression, but you mentioned that you don't differentiate between gender. But how do you tackle, say, for example, perhaps not directly, you may not be exposed to, but there may be instances of unconscious bias within the organization?
Actually, if there was a conscious bias, it was the other way around. We are trying to, the way that we hire, we say, all things being equal, we want to find more female. Okay, in some of our clients that we deal with, especially those China-based big techs, their gender ratio is amazing. We are very close partner and so our shareholder. They have almost 50-50. And in their top leadership rank, it's probably skewed towards women. We look at that and how it translated into their innovation, their whole culture, their way of just treating people themselves and their clients and partner has all really seen a very maternalistic and softer touch. Something which I find it quite lacking when you compare to, say, a bit of the cutthroat world, maybe of the slightly Western sort of culture where it's always just results-driven in a very masculine world.
And speaking of your business evolving and perhaps looking at bringing on more women into your office and into your management ranks, I want to talk to you about the importance of support from your bank in navigating difficult and new environments as you grow, as you expand as a company.
While footprint is important and everyone will probably mention about that, but to us, we feel that the bank has created a lot of bespoke solution for us that is not run-of-the-mill. Every bank will just try to sell you products. You say, yeah, I can sell you products from my inventory, and it's all boils down to just pricing. There's hardly any significant differentiation, but Citi has gone out of the way to really piece together things that they otherwise do not have and co-create it with clients like us in order to really change the world. And it has become our house bank since then.
Okay. Now, Richard, I have to ask you, what are some of the future international expansion plans for M-DAQ as you work on your mission to create a world without currency borders?
I think during the COVID time, it gave us a lot to think about as our people all went back to their respective home countries so that they can be more well taken care of by their respective government in terms of vaccination, social security, and so on. But we also used the chance to then start thinking that actually we should see this diversity not just as a buzzword, but also our strength. So where they are, we actually then wrap around a home office or sometimes a shared co-working space, and we started to expand. So at this stage, we have physical presence in London, in Japan, in Korea, in China, in Hong Kong, in Indonesia, different cities, Singapore, and we find that to be actually very helpful, because then we can be closer to where the opportunities are.
And to end off, I'd like you to share with aspiring entrepreneurs who are listening to your inspiring story, what's one word or one phrase that you would say to those who are looking to start off or perhaps have already started off but are having a tough time?
As far as innovation is concerned, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So don't wait. Do it now.
Wonderful. Wise words to end on. Richard, thank you so much for spending the time and talking to us today to share your story.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Richard Koh, Group CEO and founder of M-DAQ Global, to discuss the spirit of entrepreneurship and supporting women in the working world as part of an Inspiring Entrepreneurs series brought to you by Citi Commercial Bank in celebration of International Women's Day, in which we speak to inspiring professionals who embody the spirit of entrepreneurship and champion the power of women in the working world, their thoughts, their lessons, what inspires and drives them. I'm Rachel Kelly. You've been listening to Money FM 89.3. The views expressed in this interview are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Citi Commercial Bank. Inspiring Entrepreneurs was brought to you by Citi Commercial Bank in conjunction with International Women's Day.